Hello everyone, this is G and I'm back with another video. So no, this is not going to be about real world issues. Today's Sunday. I don't feel like complaining once again about the real world. So I'm going to complain about a fake world. I'm going to complain about Cowboy Bebop. In particular, the Netflix live action show being, I guess, in the works, you could say. Now, for many people who are of my age, mid 30s, if you're of a certain generation, you no doubt remember Cowboy Bebop. I remember watching the episodes on Adult Swim and whatnot. Now, confession. I know that this is going to sound sacrilegious to some, but I was never a big fan of Cowboy Bebop. I don't think it's a bad work. It just wasn't really to my taste. Probably because it's very much a space western, and westerns in general just don't really interest me for the most part. But again, I thought it was good. It just didn't hold my interest, right? I don't think I've watched it again ever since I was probably in college, and that was well over 10, 15 years ago at this point. So, again, good show, just not really to my taste. And that's fine. You're not going to like everything, right? Something can be high quality and you can still just not enjoy it. But here's the thing. And I have to give credit to Yellow Flash here, because it was through his channel that I found out about this, right? The executive producer, I think it is, of the Netflix live action Cowboy Bebop was talking about how he wants to stay true to the anime, and right, in that this live action show is supposed to be adding canon, as it were. We'll see what actually happens. Yet he's also talking about things like not glamorizing smoking. I don't recall wherein Cowboy Bebop smoking was glamorized. Yes, a lot of the characters smoked, but it didn't mean it. Just featuring something doesn't mean that you're glamorizing it, right? I look at it like, say, if you ever played Metal Gear Solid, right? If you ever played the original Metal Gear Solid, or even if you played Twin Snakes, right? Or any Metal Gear Solid game, but especially those, right? Solid Snake, there we go, is a smoker. It's made clear at the outset of the game. He even has a pack of cigarettes as part of his inventory. But if you use those pack of cigarettes, right, it's going to drain on your health and the your allies, I guess you could say, right? Especially if you call them on the codec, are going to criticize and berate Snake for smoking because it doesn't help. The fact that the game gives you an option to smoke does not mean that it is encouraging smoking. And uh, I think it's the same with Cowboy Bebop. Just because it features a character smoking does not necessarily mean that it's encouraging smoking. There's also a lot of gunplay in the show. It would be unfair to criticize it as trying to promote or glamorize gun violence, right? Or rushing a building to kill a former ally of yours just because that's the way the show ends, right? This long-standing feud between Snake and not Snake. Sorry, wrong person, wrong S. Spike and Vicious, right? So there's that. So I disagree with that, especially since Cowboy Bebop has never been for all ages, all audiences, and I would not expect a live action adaptation to be an all ages thing, right? I understood, for example, when in comics they slowly phased out Wolverine smoking. I felt it hurt from a characterization perspective because one of the ways to easily demonstrate Wolverine's healing factor is to have him indulge in vices like smoking or drinking and show that they have no ill effects on his health because of his healing factor. But given that comics, especially at that time, right, the 80s, the 90s, were all ages things, I can understand not wanting to show a distinct heroic character on the hero team, on the good guy team, even if he is the wild child of the group, right? Smoking when it's a book that even a 6-year-old could like pick up. I understood that. I didn't necessarily agree from a characterization perspective, but I can at least understand it. Here, it makes absolutely no sense. And as I've said previously, right? It's to me, it's very similar to this modesty kick that NetherRealm Studios is on, right? They want to tone down sex appeal, but have no problem with the violence. It was never a franchise made for kids, right? The only time I understand this is, again, when you maybe take something that is distinctly adult and you try to present it in a more family friendly or kid friendly way, right? So that everybody can watch it. It's like, as I said in another video a while back, when they would air movies on TV over the weekend, but then edit all the swearing out because they understood that they had a more general audience at that time. Those things I get. But this, when it's distinctly a very adult property and franchise meant for an adult audience, I don't understand why you're so concerned about a character smoking. Again, it's a space western. That's one of the archetypes, right, of a western, is that characters smoke. But anyway, there's that. There is that, and then there is, because it's always something that comes up in these type of works, is that they're going to tone down Faye's costume, right? The halter top with the short shorts and all that. And according to the executive director, or rather executive producer, it's because a real person has to wear that. Oh, has he been talking to Steve Baran? I wonder if he's been talking to Steve Baran, because that sounds incredibly similar to the ill-thought-out, ill-conceived justifications Steve gave for the toned-down female designs in Mortal Kombat 11. Yes, a real person does have to wear Faye's costume, and real people do wear Faye's costume all the time. They're called cosplayers, and they do a damn good job. You know what? There are also plenty of people, especially back when we could go outside freely, unless you're protesting, you can't go outside now. But prior to that, prior to the year 2020, right, around this time, especially with it being summer and it's hot outside, you see, women tend to like to wear these things called bikinis. And bikinis are, how do I put it? They show more skin, and they are less fabric than Faye's standard costume in the show. So, yeah, women have no issue, generally speaking, with showing skin in the real world. So I would imagine that Faye's costume, especially if you compare it to a bikini, which real women do wear, real women of all sizes and body types do wear, right? Compared to your standard two-piece bikini, what Faye wears in the show is perfectly modest, right? She wears more than what a person in a bikini wears. And then again, it's this toning down of female sensuality and sexuality and sex appeal. And as I've stated in other videos where this happens, the thing that frustrates me the most about this is the fact, sorry for the real world noises, it's hot out, which means I have to keep the windows open. But anyway, what frustrates me about this more than anything else is that, and I've said it in several videos when this type of issue comes up, when you alter a character's design, you alter the character. The character design is that way for a reason. It is visual narrative. Let me give you an example. I'll give you two examples, one of a male and one of a female, right? Vega from the Street Fighter games, right? He has a very distinct look. The mask, the claw, the colorful pants and the shoes, the giant tattoo on his chest. They all represent and signify something, right? The pants and the shoes, it's reminiscent of a matador, right? Matadors originated in Spain, right? The mask and the claw, it's reminiscent of the ninja. Ninjas originated in Japan, right? Which, of course, gives birth to his nickname of the Spanish Ninja. His visual design includes and blends cultural elements from two very distinct and unique places, right? One European, one Asian. And there's that. And then you have the giant snake tattoo on his chest, which for Japanese audiences is going to be very distinct and tell them outright that Vega is a bad guy without the game ever directly stating it. Now, how, you may ask? It's because, and if I'm wrong, let me know, but to my understanding in Japanese culture, especially back when Street Fighter came out in the early 1990s, right? The Japanese associated large body tattoos of that sort with the Yakuza. And the Yakuza are gangsters. They're criminals, right? So that told a Japanese player, without the game ever having to overtly state it, that Vega was a bad guy. Because he literally had a mark on his body that in that culture says, I am a bad guy. Right? Because it was evocative of again, gangs, right? Gang culture, or at least a reference to it. Right? But all of these very distinct elements of his design tell you something about him, right? His nickname of the Spanish ninja is represented in his look. It's elements of the ninja, elements of a matador, right? The tattoo, especially if you are a Japanese person, tells you he's a bad guy because it's evocative of Yakuza tattoos. If you change any of those elements in Vega's design, you get rid of the tattoo, you get rid of the mask, the claw, the matador pants and shoes. You change who Vega is as a character. It's not Vega anymore if you're missing any of those elements. It's a different person. It ain't Vega. That visual design is there. Visual narrative is there for a reason. It tells you something about the character. Another one that I often bring up is Ivy from the Soul Calibur games, right? She has this very distinct BDSM, whips and chains, leather and lace, Dom look, right? There's a point to it. First of all, she is not the first BDSM themed character even in the game. The first one is Valdo. He was in the very first game, right? But both of their looks, right, although very intensely sexualized, tell you something about the characters. Ivy is a dominant. She's a dom. She wants to be in control, right? As I mentioned in another video, right, the color purple in her outfit, right, it signifies nobility, and it signifies the occult, right? She is an occultist. She's an alchemist, and she is the adopted daughter of an English noble, right? There's one arm of hers that is covered in armor, right? And it looks very, very reminiscent of Soul Edge, and that's the tie-in to her being the daughter of Cervantes, right? All these elements are very distinct to her look. If you tone down her look, right? If you take away the whole, whips and chains, leather and lace element, or you change the armored part of her arm, or you change the color, you're changing the visual narrative of the character. Same thing with Valdo, right? He's strapped in leather, and he has this weird mask thing on and all that, and he can't speak and he can't hear and all this stuff. It tells you visually, without knowing anything about him, that he is a submissive, right? He is a slave. He is a servant. He finds happiness in slavery. That's what it tells you visually. And it creeps you out, because that's exactly what it's supposed to do. He's supposed to be creepy. If you change any of that, if you take away, for example, the straps around his mouth and around his eyes, right? Then you change who Valdo is. Because the whole thing about Valdo is that he is blind. He cannot speak, right? He can't do anything for himself, right? That's his character. He's a submissive. He is the definition of happiness in slavery. You can dislike it. You can find it creepy as all hell. That's fine. But that's the purpose of his design. If you change that, you change the character. It's not Valdo anymore if he's not a happy submissive. It's not Ivy anymore if she doesn't have that powerful dominatrix look to her. You don't have Vega if you don't have that snake on his chest. And likewise, if you change Faye's outfit, right, tying it all back to the main point here. If you change Faye's outfit, then you change Faye. Faye is not the same character as before. There's no need to change her costume. This is going to be, at least my understanding, an adult work, right? For an older audience, there's no need to change her costume. Same way there's no need to change Spike's costume, or to change the fact that he has green highlights in his hair. No need to change any of that. And for the life of me, especially for adults, for works, sorry everybody, almost dropped the phone. But especially for works that are meant for an adult audience, I will never understand this modesty kick. Now again, I don't argue, and I've never argued that every single female character or every male character needs to, strut around in next to nothing and have these uber sexualized depictions. No, I don't want that. But I want the characters and the artist's vision to be represented properly. And if part of that vision is that the character is sexy in a way, or is sexual in a way, and that's displayed through their design, through their physical appearance, then that's valid. You can like it or dislike it all you want. Opinions are fine. But a sexy or sexualized design, if that's what's intended for the character, is a valid one. It's not a bad design. It's not oppressing women or sexualizing them, in my opinion. To have one female character who is sexy for whatever reasons, right? And I will never understand this purity kick, and I've said it before, in particular in the Mortal Kombat videos, right? Sexy costumes, especially on women, bad. Dagger going through your head? Good. Or in this case, spoilers for a TV show that's over 20 years old, right? The violent shootout at the end, right? When Spike basically, storms the base to kill Vicious and end their feud over Julia, right? So that's okay, right? One man raiding a building, right? Raiding a person's, I guess, home base, you could say, right? This bloody shootout, all this violence. That's okay. Face costume, boo, bad. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And I've grown up in a culture that has always, what's the line from Everything Zen, right? There's no sex in your violence. I will never, ever, ever understand it. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think. I hope you all have a good Sunday wherever you are, or perhaps a Monday, depending on which part of the world you're in. Be happy, be healthy, and please, please, please be safe. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.